There has to be someone here.
The long-awaited Resident Evil 2 Remake was playable at E3 this year in the form of a 20-minute timed demo, allowing players to step back into the blood-spattered shoes of rookie cop Leon S. Kennedy on his ill-fated first day at the Raccoon City Police Department station. Now, never mind the undead, it's always a bit scary to play a remake of a game that you've loved so much for so long. Resident Evil fans are always going to be a bit divided on what parts of the series mean the most to them, and whether the changes Capcom have made to the series over the years have been for better or worse. But personally, I couldn't have been more excited and pleased about what I played of the Resident Evil 2 Remake demo. So here are 7 reasons I think you should be excited too, even if you aren't a Resident Evil fan yet. So, of course, one big change from the original RE2 is that shift from a fixed camera perspective to a third-person over-the-shoulder viewpoint. A fixed camera perspective feels like an ultra-dated thing to put into a game in this day and age, but the argument very often made in its favour, as well as in support of tank controls, was that it added to the game's tension and made you feel extremely vulnerable. I think that's true. The limitation of both movement and vision made more scares possible, as well as making you feel like a rookie cop rather than an efficient killer. The problem with over-the-shoulder shooting in later Resident Evil games was that it became just too easy to pick zombies off from a distance. And so the developer had to make the enemies more mobile, aggressive and numerous to compensate, which takes you from survival horror to survival action. But the RE2 Remake has found a very clever balance, I reckon, between modern design and old-school tension. You can move and shoot in this remake, but the aiming reticule resets and it becomes much more difficult to aim unless you're standing still. While standing still, the reticule will shrink and you'll fire with much greater accuracy. Zombies meanwhile will shamble, but they aren't easy targets either. Their adaptive AI means they'll duck and weave from you or lunge erratically. They aren't as easily dodged or simply avoided like in the original game. Because of these systems and the fact that many scares have been remixed and environments have been adapted to work better for a third-person perspective, it means that the RE2 Remake still makes you feel vulnerable and overwhelmed, but you aren't struggling with an archaic system that can be very off-putting to new Resident Evil players. It's the best of both worlds, essentially. The third-person perspective works extremely well in the cramped, darkened corridors of the RCPD building too. The layout is much like how older fans will remember it, but with small updates here and there to modernise the place and make it feel a little bit more real. The building comes with toilets now, for example. Some rooms have been shuffled around slightly, but many details can be picked out from the original. My favourite bit was seeing the decorations left over from Leon's welcoming party. The main thing is, the atmosphere of Resident Evil 2 is very much alive, and exploring the station is even more terrifying than you remember it, especially as so many of the corridors are dark enough that Leon now needs a flashlight to find his way around. One thing worth noting too is that for obvious reasons, the classic Resident Evil door loading animation is gone now, so zombies can follow you for much longer and quite often they can catch up to you and give you a nasty surprise. A very cool thing we noticed about when this happens is bite marks will still be visible on Leon during cutscenes after he's been attacked, which is just quite unexpectedly great attention to detail.
You save yourself first. I'd come with you, but I'd just slow you down.
God damn it!
Bite marks really are the least of your worries though. The RE2 Remake is a gory game, as it should be. Capcom has recently boasted about how the RE engine, the same engine used in Resident Evil 7, allows the Resident Evil 2 Remake to showcase a very photorealistic style, with many scary scenes brought to life with a horrifyingly realistic wet gore effect. And we can certainly see evidence of that in the short 20 minutes that we played. Check this out.
Fuck.
The photorealism is extra special when it's coupled with some classically weird Resident Evil dialogue for some potentially unintentional funny moments. Like Leon telling this guy to just be brave when he's literally getting pulled apart. Yeah, come on buddy, you can make it through this. You know what they say? No guts, no glory.
Jesus Christ.
Careful.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to start last week, and I got a call to stay away. I wish I'd come here sooner.
It's interesting to see what Capcom have done with their new look Leon too. In the years since Resident Evil 2 first released, he's obviously gone on to become a badass action hero, so it's gotta be difficult to peel all that right back and make him a little bit inept and inexperienced again. Whether you like his new baby-faced character model or not, his attitude has also been tweaked in interesting and subtle ways. Turning up to the police station in the midst of an outbreak, he's obviously in total disbelief at first. Well, wouldn't we all be? And he talks to himself both to reassure and to most likely remind himself he isn't dreaming.
You got this.
It's a little strange at first to hear him yelling obscenities at every single zombie he encounters.
Fuck you!
But again, wouldn't you? But the interesting thing is, once he talks to Marvin, who gives him both a combat knife instead of a keycard, and a much needed metaphorical kick up the arse, he sort of collects himself and appears to be a lot calmer during encounters. Marvin Branagh himself seems to have had a bit of a story overhaul. Instead of first meeting up with him to unlock the doors to both the western and eastern sections of the RCPD, Leon explores the eastern side of the police station first in the remake, only to be saved by Marvin when things start to get a little hairy. Marvin then sticks around in the main hall, though, as we all know, probably not for very long. Changing little bits of character and story development here and there probably won't make much of a difference to new or casual players, but for old school fans it can be weird that certain story beats aren't quite how you remember them. Capcom has said that this is intentional, however. If everything played out in the exact same way, there would be no new real scares for the series' biggest fans. Instead, the developers want to have a little bit of fun and play with expectations, with one of the biggest examples of this in the demo we played being the absence of the first liquor encounter. In place of this is a bit of radio dialogue about a helicopter, a bit of foreshadowing of some kind, no doubt. And of course, a lovely corpse on the ceiling too. The liquor will show up eventually, as we know from previously released trailers, and apparently some demo players at E3 did in fact get a glimpse of it crawling across a window, but where and how will we properly come face to face with it? It's good to know that RE veterans won't always have the upper hand when compared to newbies. We'll all be jumping out of our skin at one point or another. Additionally, items and weapons have been moved around too. In the original, players could pick up a shotgun early on in the game via Robert Kendo, the unfortunate owner of a nearby gun shop. In this scenario, we found the shotgun in the weapons locker. It's actually cool to know that you won't be able to coast through this reimagining from memory, and it's exciting to look forward to whatever else Capcom might have changed and reworked. And of course, that's not to say that some elements that aren't present in Leon's campaign won't be revisited in Claire Redfield's scenario. Mind you, it'll be interesting to find out if your actions in either of the two campaigns will impact the other. On that note, there are a few entirely new gameplay elements too. Zombies will show up at the windows of the police station, and eventually they will be able to crash through and attack, unless Leon is able to find and place wooden boards on the window to keep them out. It isn't clear yet how effective they are or how long these boards will last, but since there are a finite number of them, it's sure to add a new strategic layer to exploration, as you decide which windows and doors to prioritise as you do a fair amount of backtracking. Additionally, similar to the Resident Evil 1 remake, you can instantly stab a zombie to push them away and avoid damage whenever you're grabbed. The difference here is, your knife will remain in the body of the zombie until you pick it back up, or indeed, if you pick it back up. Despite these updates though, it's still very much the game fans will remember. It's all about solving puzzles, tracking down key items, gathering resources, and managing your inventory and item boxes for challenges ahead. But there's a welcome change of pace in the new freedom you have to explore in your own time, deviating from the more constricted and scripted progression of the original. And this remake won't be without its share of the ridiculous either. Capcom has already confirmed the return of Hunk, Tofu, and the giant alligator from the original game. Essentially, for me, Resident Evil is all about the setting, and the RE2 Remake pays such close attention to the little details that I'm fairly confident I'm gonna love the finished product. Details like the fact that all of the zombies look distinct and different, which seems obvious, but it really does wonders to actually make you feel like this is a real apocalypse involving formerly real people, and not just copy and pasted assets. And the fact that you can shoot off different body parts and leave limbs dangling by a little bit of sinew helps too. Special mention has to be given to the ambient lighting as well, with every flicker and wayward shadow putting your nerves on a knife edge. Leon's flashlight is sure to play a big part in the game as well, given how darkened so many of these early corridors are. Honestly, 20 minutes just didn't feel like enough to enjoy everything that this demo had to offer.
I'll get you out! Help me! Please! Help me!
But what do you think of how the remake looks so far? Are you looking forward to seeing how Claire's campaign has evolved, or are you just kind of put off by all the new changes? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to Eurogamer for new Resident Evil videos very soon. In the meantime, why not check out one of these videos? And thanks for watching this one. Bye!